America. Hello, friends. If you are a Donald Trump supporter, I would please ask that you do not skip this video. Please just kind of listen to some of the things I have to say. I wanted to basically give my point of view on why I think the way that I do. And that essentially kind of starts off with some of his court cases that are pending against him right now. And so I'm just going to list those off and then discuss a little bit of that along with some other things. So when it comes to his court cases, he has been indicted on 91 criminal charges on 4 different court cases. There's the hush money case, the federal case where he was accused of trying to overturn the election. There's the Georgia case where he's accused of trying to overturn the election, and the Florida case about the classified documents. Before I go into the details on those, I wanted to list off a few of the other recent court cases related to him or his businesses. He was found civilly liable for sexual assault against Eugene Carroll. He was the Trump University was shut down because of fraud, and Trump settled that for $25 million. The Trump Foundation was also found not being functioning as a charity, and was essentially a pyramid scheme, and that money was being funneled up to him. But it was shut down, he was also forced to pay $2 million on that. There was Trump and his business was found to be liable civilly for committing fraud against the people in New York, and his business was ordered to pay $354 million, which is a lot of money. But he was also trying to circumvent paying that. He has secretly moved his New York business to Florida. He was found out that he did that, and there was a committee that was overseeing him and his business and getting him to pay those funds. And basically he didn't tell them and moved his business down to Florida. And last I heard, he was illegally trying to move the money overseas so that it can't be traced. So that's all well and fun. When it comes to the 4 court cases, there's the first one, which he was already convicted in, which was the hush money case, where he paid off a porn star, Stormy Daniels, so that she would stay quiet about the sexual encounter that he had with her while his wife, new wife, Melania, when they first married, and she had a child. She was at home taking care of the newborn baby, and he was somewhere having sex with a porn star. So he paid her off to stay quiet about it. Now, that itself is not, I don't think, illegal, but he falsified business records so that he could do that, so that she would stay quiet before the election, is essentially what he was doing. So that's one case. There was the next case, which was the special counsel with Jack Smith, accused Trump of conspiring to overturn the 2020 election. And so that was the lies he did, the enlisting of fake electors in swing states to vote for him. He pressured VP Mike Pence to disrupt the counting of those electoral votes. We all know about that. Well, we know about it, but we don't know as much about it as what actually happened. So there's a lot of behind the scenes things that we didn't know about until more recently that came out from released records and stuff like that. And of course, he instigated a mob to attack the Capitol. We all are well aware of that. And trying to convince members of Congress. During the whole riot, he was in the middle of calling people, trying to convince members of Congress to further delay their certification of Biden as president. So we're all aware well of that one. Then there's the Georgia case, where he was also accused of conspiring to overturn the 2020 election. There's a wide range of acts on that one too, but we all know, which was released, and hopefully a lot of people know about this. He called the Georgia Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, repeatedly asking him to find 11,780 votes, to overturn the count in his favor. That was a pressure campaign, obvious as day. He's calling the guy, he's saying, I just need you to find this many votes and overturn the election in my favor. That's illegal. It's not mind-blowing, complicated things. It's just listen to the audio. It's available on the internet. You can go listen to it. It's illegal. And so that was one of them. And he also did some other things, harassed election workers. He had his people create unauthorized copies of election equipment, software, and data. These are all things you can't do. You are not allowed to do these things, and he had them done. In Florida, there's the other case, which is the one about the classified documents, refusing to return them. Not only, is a lot different than the case with like Biden and Pence both had classified documents in their possession at their houses as well. They were asked to return them. They did so immediately. End of story. That is not what Trump did. He, one thing, said that he didn't have them, lied about it, had a ton more than the other guys. But also willfully lied to investigators, conspired to have staffers delete surveillance video of the property, not to mention showing highly classified data to visitors at his golf club. Insane stuff. You can't make this up. He said that he unclassified them with his mind. That's not how that works. That is not how you declassify documents. So, just a lot of crazy things. Now, I'm not a conservative, so perhaps my opinion doesn't hold much weight. But, you know, if you look at some of the big names out there endorsing Kamala, voting over Trump, you see that a lot of lifelong Republicans are doing so. Now, these are not people that I'm a fan of, but you have former Vice President Dick Cheney, Senator Mitt Romney, former White House Communications Director Anthony Scaramucci, National Security Advisor Olivia Troy, and 17 staff members from like Reagan-era Republicans. You know, even Trump's former VP Mike Pence has strongly signaled that he will not vote for Trump. Now, maybe the whole thing where he tried to get him killed might have been part of that, but the point being, like, there's all these people. There's his former chief of staff, John Kelly, more recently called him a fascist, saying, reasonable things, I think are reasonable, but he said he has no understanding of the Constitution or the rule of law, admitted that while president, Trump tried to withhold federal aid from states that didn't vote for him. That if liberal presidents had done something like that, didn't give aid to, southern states because of, like, hurricanes, stuff like that. Hurricanes hit Texas, Louisiana, Florida. Like, these are primarily, conservative states. If a liberal president was just like, oh, well, you know what? Y'all didn't vote for me, so no aid for you. That would be insane. People would lose their minds. Like, that is not something that they should be able to do. But this is something he tried to have happen. He wanted the Department of Justice to investigate his political opponents. He wanted the IRS to audit his political opponents. He wanted to withhold federal aid to places in the country that didn't vote for him. So, yeah, what I already said. But, like, fires, stuff like that in California, he wanted to withhold aid from that. That's something he actually tried to have happen, but people stopped him. He asked multiple times why the military couldn't be used against protesters. He asked his defense secretary why the military couldn't shoot unarmed protesters. And he threatened to take away broadcasters' media licenses. One example of him responding to an interview with VP Harris done by CBS, and so he said that they should had their broadcasters' license taken away. He said that the press are the enemy of the people. He said that CBS should lose its license, saying that they're going to subpoena their records once he becomes president. ABC should lose the license for what he deemed to be an unfair debate. He says that MSNBC should be investigated for its country-threatening treason. In his words, he said, just wait and see what we do to the New York Times. This is not democracy. That is not how democracy works. It's a blueprint for authoritarianism. And you may think, like, well, he was already president once. The sky didn't fall. Everything was fine. My 401k went up. Like, and I get that. However, the reason that he was unable to push through some of his worst instincts were because there were people in his way that specifically stopped him. But those people are not going to be in the way anymore. Like, he came out and said that he's putting all loyalists in all of positions of power. Like, it's going to be all yes men. And they're going to bow to his every whim. And any time that he wants to do some of those crazy things that he wasn't able to do during his first term, he'll be able to do them this time. And that, maybe you think, like, well, we need some change. Like, we need to shake things up. But this is the opposite of that. This is not just change. This is, like, completely destroying democracy, which is not the change we want. We don't want a dictator. When it comes to the changes in the Republican Party over the last 10 plus years, like the conservative base is no longer what it once was. It's a different, certainly a different mindset, and I think most people understand that. And to a certain degree, I understand why it came about. There's lots of reasons. One reason is, Donald Trump himself is definitely a very different kind of politician. He tapped into people's distrust of the government, and I totally get why people distrust the government. And also like he he didn't act like a normal politician because he's not one. And a lot of people didn't want those same politicians that just like you could. It's hard to trust what they say because they don't speak like normal people do. They clearly hide a lot of stuff. They won't admit things, and he was very different in that. Like he would say, kind of like say things that seemed like it was right off the cuff, seemed like it was right, what his mind was thinking in that moment. And he would say things like, I'm gonna drain the swamp, and the problem is like he doesn't say what he thinks, because he very much says what he wants you to hear. And he's shown time and time again that he's this criminal, he's a scam artist. Like he's very good at knowing what to say and how to say it to trigger people. He works off of fear and anger, but he's not interested. In my opinion, he's not interested in helping you. He's interested in saving himself from going to jail. Just at the expense of the democracy. Like he wants revenge, and he wants to save himself. That's what he wants. Anytime I watch an interview with Donald Trump talking about policy, like anytime they ask him questions over policy, he never really knows anything. He immediately redirects and talks about something else. He'll say something like, oh, we're going to do great things, blah, blah, blah. But like he never gives any detail whatsoever. And within a sentence, he will immediately go over to, and Kamala is just going to destroy, America, destroy the economy, blah, blah, blah. And never gives any details about like how she's going to do that or how he's going to do the things he's going to do. And to me, that just says he doesn't really know anything about policy, which is not surprising. He doesn't really know anything about American history either. But any policy that he has is going to be made by other people. He's going to hire other people. They're going to make the policy, and that's when Project 2025 comes in. So if you know anything about that, well, that's kind of his policy. I could tell you why I think Kamala is a better choice. I could tell you, how there was this bipartisan plan to secure the border, and many Republicans called it the best border deal they had seen. But then Trump openly told them not to vote for it, saying that he didn't want Biden to get a win before the election. So this happened, was it early this year, I believe? They were trying to pass. He didn't want them to have a win, especially in the same year as the election was taking place. There was this big bill. You can look it up. It was going to do a lot of things to protect the border, and Trump didn't want it to pass. And he only didn't want it to pass simply because he didn't want Biden to have a win. And to me, that means he doesn't really care about the border. The border is not really something that interests him. He only cares about actually winning election. I could tell you how Trump has openly taken credit for overturning Roe versus Wade, and because of him, many women have died needlessly. Just recently, there was an 18-year-old that was pregnant and died of sepsis because she couldn't get treatment. And the only reason she couldn't get treatment was because of this post-Roe versus Wade world that we live in right now. Now, I understand this is like one of those subjects a lot of people have a lot of opinions on, but there's a lot of women that are dying that want to have babies. They want to keep children, but they die because something happens in pregnancy, like they lose the baby, and then they end up dying because the doctors can't treat them, because legally in the states that they live in, they're not allowed to have a dead baby. So all of these things are absolutely ridiculous and are caused because of Trump. I could also tell you about how, by nearly every metric, the economy is doing better than it's ever been. Job growth is through the freaking roof. But yes, I understand food is expensive, and something does need to be done about that. We basically went through a recession due to the pandemic. The whole world did, and we're one of the only country that did as good as we did coming out of the pandemic. Now, I know it may not feel like that every day, but we went through a recession. Recessions are hard, but we made it through, and we're actually doing really good. If you look at the metrics right now, we're actually doing really good. Now, we need more work. Yes, that is 100% true, but that is what somebody actually has a plan to fix, which is Kamala. If you look at the ideas that Trump has, which is to add tariffs on goods coming from other countries, do you understand what that actually does? A tariff on another country doesn't hurt the company that is overseas. Basically, what that does is, companies that are here, when they import goods, they get tariffed on, they get a tax put on, which is a tariff, and that tariff gets passed down to the consumer. Plain and simple. It goes to the consumer. So us, as the consumer, would pay more for our goods if there are tariffs placed on them. Now, the idea behind it is that you would bring jobs back to America. That's the idea behind it. You have factories in other countries working on certain goods. So say you have a company that needs certain, things done, certain parts, whatever. They hire people in other countries to build those things because the labor is cheaper. That's what's going on. So they bring those jobs back to America, then we're still going to be paying more. Why? Because the labor is going to cost more. That is what a tariff is going to do. Now, we might create some jobs, but they're really not great jobs. The jobs that would be created are not like high-paying jobs. And we're already got great job growth right now. So basically all that will happen is it will pay more for our goods. Not smart. But beyond all of this, I think when it comes to the core of who I want as a president of the United States, I want at the very least someone that is a decent human being. They should be an inspiration for the young, for the future generations, and we have an opportunity to have the first female president. And if you listen to her speeches, they're primarily about, a bright future of possibilities, about moving forward, good things for the future. And when you listen to Trump, well, okay, so he if he gets elected and inaugurated, he will be the oldest president ever inaugurated. Now, Biden was the oldest one ever inaugurated. Biden is 3 years older than Trump. So by the time Trump is inaugurated, he will now be the oldest person ever inaugurated. Now, as a very wise person that I know has said over and over over the last couple of years, no one that old should be holding office. Now, this goes for Congress, this goes for Supreme Court, and this goes for president. Nobody that old has any understanding of what it's like for, younger generations. Being president is a very stressful job. There's a lot of, you got to be, you get that 3 a.m. call. Are you ready? When it comes to, people that are very old, no offense to old people, but you get tired very easily. And you're just not going to be on your A game if you're that old. So I don't think anybody at that age should be president. But aside from that, his speeches, if you listen to them, they're primarily about revenge and revenge against those who he feels has wronged him. They're about the past. They're about fear of the other. They're about anger. He's just not someone that kids should look up to. He's an angry, weak, easily manipulated old man who will continue to tear apart democracy in any way he can. Happy voting.